coming from Ukraine to Berlin exactly. Can you recall me exactly from the day that you were in the studio of the photographer, what was happening through the train when you were on board exactly? Anything of it?
It was 24 February, when the war started. Everything was down, that day for me exactly, and I think for many people also. So in the train, when you say in the train, it was horrible. No, really, it was very horrible, extremely horrible. So in the train, we slept on the floor, in the train in Ukraine. There's the metal, it's the metal. We sleep on the street, on the floor in the train in Ukraine is the metal. So there is no place, because the compartment of place is like for, if my mind is a girl, it's for 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
But we were like 12. 12, yeah, 12.
12 in one sector.
Yeah, two is a 2 sector on the left, 2 sector on the right. Here like 10 people. Okay, many people don't use. When it was a day, many people don't use the on the top, because they just put their bags or purse on the top. And when it was night, people have to sleep, so we put the back on down, and people use it, or the child, and we sleep on the floor. It was horrible. So, and cold. We spend like 24 hours on the train, because sometimes you have to stop, because we are afraid about maybe they can attack, they can strike us with the missile. Sometimes you have to stop. They told us to don't use your phone, because maybe the GPS geolocalization can find us. Sometimes you stop, sometimes you don't stop, sometimes you lost the time, or maybe they don't tell us in advance, like in the 2 minutes or 5 minutes we're gonna stop the train. They just stop the train and they say quiet.
What do you mean geolocalization, the GPS? For what the Russian can?
Yeah, they're afraid about the Russian, because they can find us. When I say find us, it's like when everybody using their phone, they can find us. This guy, the technology, I don't know how it's working, but the GPS, they can find someone, or maybe the movement. There is the movement somewhere, they can strike or attack him. That's why they say.
Okay, interesting. You also said that you were in the studio of a photographer. Did it happen to be an alarm in the city? Can you specify the city where you were, and how many people arrived in the square? Like how it was the situation in that moment? If I don't say the if my mind is alright, they say after 30 minutes or after 1 hour, they are using alarm. It's very huge, and they use now there is a drone and chemicals. They strike, they attack every buildings. They don't have no electricity, no water. What did you see in the square that day when you went out from Kiev?
The scene.
The scenery, that the images that you have in your mind, the scenario.
The scenario was just the war scenario.
What the people were doing, like how they.
People are crying. People are overwhelming. So it was just horrible, like a Armageddon, if I can say that. It was horrible. Because we didn't accept you can have that kind of situation in Ukraine. We know the war was in the east of Ukraine, but not on the west of Ukraine, not the east. When they attacked Ukraine that day, it was horrible. I know some people don't believe me when I say, even me though, I didn't want, because someone called me, man, there is war start. I say, no man, it's just some crazy guy, or some guy you have something to, he wants to prove something. That's why he attack, or maybe attack for chemicals.
You told me that your friend helped you out, giving you instruction to get the first train available. Yes.
From no. When I because you know when the war started, I was in the shoot.
Yeah, you told me.
I was the shoot in another city. So when I want to come back to Kiev to take my stuffs and to run away, they say no, Kiev is closed. You cannot in, but just out. So I decide to go to another city. When I arrived to another city, I decide I bought another ticket. When I came to the Dnipro, people told some of my friends, two of my friends told me, man, you cannot stay here. We tomorrow or maybe this night we are traveling. I said, why, man? But I came here because it's a safe. No, man, it's a war. You have to go. So we went to the gas station to buy the ticket. When you arrive to the gas station, they say the train is free for everybody. Thank you God, we didn't buy the ticket. So you just figure out like okay, in 2 hours PM you have to go to the train, the gas station, and to take what kind of train is ready or is available for us. We're gonna take it. When we arrive to the gas station, we took the train.
You said you didn't have time to collect your things, right? To collect. You left some luggages in your flat, in your room.
Yeah, I left all my stuff in my room. All.
Did you take
birth certificate, my diplomas, clothes, everything.
Did you get any possibility to recover the like your passport at least? You had it with you, your your passport and your wallet?
No.
I mean, money? How did you?
The wallet? No, I didn't have a wallet. When I lost my wallet, I didn't buy it again. Didn't buy again. So I have just my passport. I have two passports there. I think two passports. I have two passports in Ukraine. So I just contact our embassy. I made a new one. I have a new passport.
How does it feel to run without any money, with only two passports, documents, not knowing in which kind of place you're going exactly, if you will find someone to help you? I mean, how is the sensation for you? I mean, I guess you already experienced it the other time, but I mean, like, because you are talking as a refugee, but I mean, can you explain to a person how does it feel to lost everything in one day?
First of all, I hesitate, I hesitate to cross the border, because I in my mind I was telling myself, I know anyone in West, so how I can go there? How I have no money? No, sorry, I got my money. I got paid. When I say the short, I got paid. I got like my mind 800.
Okay.
8 or 5? No, 500. I got 500 euro with me. So I changed the money in the euro, in the dollar. So that's allowed me to pay to buy the ticket to come to Dnipro, but not Lviv, but Dnipro, because that time the ticket was you have to pay your ticket to take the train. I bought the ticket for Dnipro, and for Dnipro there, when I came there, I have the money also, but they say the train is it was horrible. So I didn't know. I didn't want to come here because some of my guys called me, man, the border is open, you can go. I said, no, man, I don't know if I reach there, where I'm going to sleep, how I'm going to do to eat.
Who help you when you?
Yeah, who gonna help me? Because I know. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. I know it's not easy for people to help you when you
and
just
and
came
what
like
happened when you were?
Especially if I don't know you.
Yeah. What happened when you crossed the border? Did someone help you to find directly a place? How was efficient the social working? I mean, in Berlin.
You are talking about Berlin?
About Berlin.
Berlin. I was thinking you were talking about Poland.
Yeah, but after we will arrive also to Poland. And now I want to. Did you already have information when you were here in Berlin?
Yeah, in Berlin, I got information.
Okay.
So there is some voluntary people who are free to help. So when I came, when I entered, when we crossed the border with Poland and Germany. So the police came they approached me. They asked me my documents. I say I don't have any document with me. Say, where you come from? I say I come from Ukraine. But prove us. I say I don't have any document with me. I can prove. Just my bag. This bag I bring. I have a bag. I have a bag with me because it was the shoot day. That's why I bring some clothes with me in the bag. Even it wasn't that, I would just come to with my pants and shoe.
Did you went to Outbanov?
Yeah. I came to Urbanov. I show my telephone my picture, the picture of my passport. So he checked it. He called. He's talking blah, 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 in Dutch.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking. He's talking blah, blah, blah. After that, he gave me my phone. He said, okay, you can go. And he let me go, and we arrived to Berlin, Urbanov. When I just arrived, so a lot of people outside there are just waiting for us.
Okay. And where did you get the information to go to the Hauptbahnhof? Who told you that they were going to help there?
Who told me? Just the information, like you are here, the rumor, you listen or what people are saying. Oh no, if you arrive, from I get some information from friends. They are already arrived to Berlin, to Frankfurt, to Paris, to Spain. They say there is also the guys like one association. They are there. They are helping the people who need help.
Okay. So let's go back to Poland. When you were coming in the train, you said it was difficult even to use the toilet in the train.
You cannot use the toilet. It was horrible. It was difficult.
Okay, so how many hours did you remain without eating and without having your proper hygiene and your proper natural things to do as a human?
Oh, when you have a struggling time, don't think about like a pee, like a go to the toilet. You don't have this time. Just worry about your life. And I hope God help us to don't think about it. The big problem it was just to smoke, to have a cigarette to smoke because it was cold. There is no heater in the train, and to eat because I remember I spent like 16 hours. I didn't eat. But
16 hours.
Yeah. It was good because we spent in the train 24 hours. 16 hours in the train. I didn't eat. Just some biscuits, some cake. Not from me, just from guys, from the guys.
When you were in that after when you crossed the border and you arrive effectively into Poland, how was the hospitality of the Polish border?
Oh, they was very kind, very nice with us.
Where was it? In Darusk?
When we came, the train stopped. It stopped, sorry. And they said, we're gonna call first of all the woman and the children. Children and women, they receive them. It was by step by step. And when I came, I said I don't have any documents. So the same situation arrived to me there also. So they said just you have your passport in your phone. Yeah, I showed them, and you know what? My phone was off, and I don't have the charger with me. So they provide for me the charger, and I charged my phone. I was the last one who get registered in the Poland.
Can you tell me? In general, I mean, if you ever experience or also some scene of discrimination at the Polish border for no reason?
Personally, I didn't get the discrimination that
Okay.
day. So, but I know some of my friends get some discrimination, like no, don't you cannot use the train, you cannot, you know, that's
You cannot use the train?
yeah, because right now we don't need the men, we need just the woman and children. Or where you want to go, you can fight with us. We're gonna give you the gun, the weapon, the gun, and you're gonna fight for us. When I was in the train on the border of Ukraine to Poland, some of guy, but it was just a joke. Oh, it was a joke. Some guys told me, "Oh man, you know where you wanna go?" Because we are speaking in the Russian. He said, "Oh, where you wanna go?" I said, "Yeah, I have to go because here now it's not safe for me here." He said, "No, stay with us. I'm gonna give you a gun. I'm gonna give you a gilet for against the bullet. You know, you're gonna use it. Look, the woman. I saw the woman with the guns. You know, the Kalashnikov AK-47. AK, yeah, AK. They carry the gun. He say, you're gonna fight with us." I say, "Oh no, let me go first, and in the 6 months I'm gonna come back to fight with you." He say, "Okay, bye." It was just a joke. Yeah.
Of course. But I want to ask you that I was informed, and we already know that a lot of people that doesn't have specifically for Ukrainian citizenship, it's more difficult for them to be accepted and to have the procedures of the documents done, because effectively you were not considered like an Ukrainian
Yeah.
privileged. So you have the same benefit of a person, of a refugee from the third world, basically.
Yeah.
Is that and did you know if any of your friends were discriminated for this point of view? I mean, if it was difficult for them to fit.
Yeah. I know some guys. They was discriminated. Me too. I was discriminated. Discriminated. Yeah.
But in a way, you told me that you have much more a sort of help from the Polish border as well. I mean, it was like more. They were, in a way, they were gentle and kind.
Yeah,
even though
gentle and kind. You are talking about in.
I'm talking if there was because I also heard in general that it's that there were some discrimination at the borders, like someone were not maybe Ukrainian citizens were let it pass at first, and then secondly the other people. Or did you ever see this difference, or did someone told you that?
Yeah. It was hard. It was very hard because some guys they was kicked out on the border. They say you have to go back to Ukraine.
Why?
When the war starts in 24 February and 25, 26, that 3 days was very hard because when the war started, many people wanted to cross the border, and so they saw many. The people gathered across close to the border. They cannot let everybody in. You know, that's why some guys, you know.
And how did you feel like lucky to were able actually to cross the border like in that condition? If you think about that now.
Yeah, I can think. I can think. I was lucky to just cross the border without problem, without like insult, without victimized. You know, I just crossed the border. I came. I showed my passport.
And of course, you told me that, for example, you don't apply for help from the state because you don't have the you don't have an Ukrainian recognition. That
I didn't apply till now. I didn't apply, but now I'm waiting. I got my second what? What how to call it? Second appointment. Yeah.
Second appointment.
Yeah, so appointment in Lea.
What does it require to apply for fundings from the state in your case?
In our case, because not just my case.
Yeah, your case is a representative of other people
Yeah,
that
in our
are.
case, It was 24 articles.
24 articles.
Yeah,
but
24
as a visa for artist.
24 articles? No, it's for, that's why it's for refugee.
For refugee.
For refugee, they protect you. They give you they allow you to.
But if a person like you,
security, safe.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that if a person like you that is coming from the war and doesn't have Ukrainian documents whatsoever, you didn't receive any help from the state, like in terms of money?
No, I didn't receive anything from the state because you have to show them. The problem is that you have to prove them you come from Ukraine.
What were you necessary to do? To work for Ukraine 5 years?
I lived in Ukraine like 10 years. 2022 is 10 years. So I told them I speak Russian.
And what was that enough? Was that not enough?
No, I said I speak Russian.
What is necessary to have the recognition to stay more than 10 years for them?
For the in Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah. For in Ukraine, if you want to get like a citizen document, you have to nationality or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to live in Ukraine like 10 years, and 10 years you have to start your process to get your nationality. So I was in the process also.
Yes.
I should be have my first appointment in March, but the war start.
Okay.
That's why. You see.
So Bruni, as you are a guy that you're always positive and putting positive vibes to people, how would you encourage, like in general, like the situation for a person that in general comes from the war, and it doesn't matter what kind of nationality this person has, but in a sort of system that works, we should all be helped in a way to rebuild a life somewhere else, even if it's a minimum guarantee. So what would you suggest that everybody should have at minimum to start a life in a place when it's coming from a war condition?
What I can suggest people, I don't know. I don't know what I have to say.
I mean, there was a day definitely in your situation when you would have desired to have something. Was it a place to stay, or?
You know, when you come from the place where was the war, there is the war. It depends of your mind, on your mind state. You know how you're thinking, because everybody don't have the same situation, same story. You know, high story. You know, so there is some guy they are strong. Mindset think they are strong. Some guy they are always positive, optimist, but the war can break them. When especially when you came from you have your family, you have your friend, you have your life. You came to another country. You are just you are a refugee. You lost everything. If you don't have a mind state, it takes you longer to get off it. You see.
Okay.
So what I have just to say to the people, like and myself, just to believe in yourself. You know? I know it's hard. It's a struggling time you've been through, but I think it's gonna be fine.
And you told me also that one of your friends decided to remain in Ukraine.
Yeah, a lot of guys.
And
even Ukrainian though they are go back to Kiev.
Yeah, one of your friend that he was coming from Africa as well. You told me that he remains in his house to protect the state, to fight. Is that possible? I mean, you mentioned one of your friend that you also contact that day.
Yeah, the guy he got the gun to fight for the Ukraine.
Some lines that you use every day as a philosophy of life.
A quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. A quote who I'm using every day is who doesn't kill you make you strong.
What doesn't kill you make you?
Well, who doesn't kill you make you strong.
Who doesn't kill you make you?
Who doesn't kill you make you strong.
I like it, really. I really like it.
doesn't kill you, make you strong.
Hello. I'm born under the name Georg, and I call myself Zaza because I like it. And you wanted to know how I came across the persons from Ukraine and how I got there. So when the Russians attacked big scale, I had the impulse to go there right away, but there were some courage issues on my side, and also I had to organize a car that was not of my parents or my family to go there, because they didn't really trust the situation as much as to let me go on my own. And when I bought my own car with the help of my family, then I was free enough to do the choice voluntarily and to not be influenced by the fear or the worries of my family. They were still worried, but I got to choose for myself from that point on. And over the year, I made contact because I'm working voluntarily. I'm working in the music industry, and we organize festivals. And by this, I made contacts with two people from Ukraine over some music event at Wannsee in Berlin. And it was sheer coincidence, because at first we didn't really talk. I just saw her and her colleagues, and we didn't have much time to chat. After that, randomly in the U-Bahn, we saw each other again, and we didn't talk another time. And the third time, and third's the charm, I guess, we saw each other at Eberswalder Straße, and I thought, well, this is destined to be. I'm talking to her now. And by doing so, a friendship developed itself over the month, and I got to know her over the time, and we talked about the situation in Ukraine and how unbearable it is, and how difficult for her to be in Berlin and in Germany, because many people here approach her with all kinds of opinion, but not with much empathy. And that nearly broke my heart, because I thought, how can people approach foreigners with anything but empathy? But this also, I can speak out in this way because I have my own kind of experience with racism and with otherism here. And this is why I know how hard it feels to be attacked by opinions and by nonsense and prejudices and so on. And if you come from a war-torn country, since my grandfather was pushed out of Silesia as a young boy, I know of his experiences. And my grandmother, she grew up in the post-war times in Germany, and she also has her experiences. And my father is from Syria, so I kind of know a lot of how it might be, how they feel when they manage to arrive in a different country, and then they are approached by all sorts of emotions, but not much empathy and understanding. But I don't want to sound unfair. I know that in Germany many people are actually very supportive, or try their best to understand the situation and to help as good as they can. Which is why I thought I might just go to Kiev, which is where these two friends I made are from, and help in whatever way I can. So we discussed about the possibilities I would have to be not of disturbance but of actual help. And as the two people I got to know are professional musicians, and they weren't able to get their musical equipment out of their studio back to Berlin where they're residing now, I thought, well, this sounds like the task that we are meant to do. And this is why we organized it, so that I would go to Kiev in 1 or 2 days' ride. We grab the stuff and then we go back. But actually, as one of the two professional musicians is a male, and he's not allowed to leave the country for that long of a time without invitation, he had an invitation, but he exceeded the date of staying here. So he was afraid that if he would go back now to this country, to Ukraine, they might put him directly to the front, or he would face some persecutions or some personal damage or whatever, you know. He was really under the impression of and under the fear of being persecuted if he goes back. And I mean, I understand that Ukraine as a state has the problem of organizing war now, but from his point of view it's just so harsh because he's not able to work there, so he has lost his kind of economic stability, and he's also not able to stay because of the imminent attacks. And to work in his field he has to leave the country somehow or change his working field, but this I'm afraid he wasn't wanting to do. So he decided in the end to stay in Berlin, which made it a bit unbearable for me as a driver, because all of a sudden I was the only person with a license and the possibility to drive, which resulted in 6 and 10 hours drive. And I mean, usually that's doable, but to go there and wait several hours at the border, crossing the kilometers of truck drivers waiting in line, then being cast away from the border because this point of entrance that we were headed to, it was only for trucks and we didn't know. So we had to go back, taking the national routes of Poland, and find another entrance to Ukraine. And from there on, after leaving Warsaw for a one-night stay at friends of a friend, we were actually able to get over the border. But it was also driven by a lot of coincidences and goodwill, because apparently you need a lot of documents and you need your insurance papers in original form, and I didn't have them. I just had a copy of them occasionally in the car, and I told them everything I could. I even phoned my assurance guy in Brandenburg, and I tried everything I can, and then they just let us go actually over and let us cross the border. And it was funny because they were handling this with a small piece of paper, handwritten and with a stamp, and this looked so last century to me. Listening to myself, I hear how much German I speak when I'm speaking English. It's funny. But anyways, so you saw these people with military kind of weaponry or the Polish border section, and then they give you this small piece of paper handwritten with your traffic plate on. This was so surreal to me. I don't know. I thought, I understand that you have to find a way of organizing this, but this looks very much not helpful, because it took hours and hours just to get this small piece of paper that you then left 100 meters farther from the first station of control. And then the 10 hours drive to Kiev, and my co-driver, she really pressured me a lot to get there in time, and I was driving at such a speed that would usually not be very wise and healthy to use, because there is curfew time in Kiev, and from 11 to 5 in the morning, 11 night to 5 in the morning, you're not allowed to go out. And she also told me in the first month of the bigger attacks of the Russian war against Ukraine, the Ukrainian administrators, they even shot at people in the streets, like shot them in the legs, to be sure that they are not traitors or spies, because if you're not following curfew order, you might as well be a spy. Which is why she pressured me so hard to just hurry up and arrive there in time before 11. It was actually good that she did so, because we barely made it that day. I had obviously no clue of what is going on in Kiev. I did inform myself, I did ask her many things, but nobody can ask for what's going on. You have to see it. And the first 2 days were absolutely peaceful. We arrived there in the night and we saw soldiers and a lot of block posts, a lot of destruction, but since we arrived in nighttime, you couldn't really see the scale of destruction on any kind of buildings or streets or whatever around Kiev and in Kiev. But fast forward 12 days from then, as we returned to Warsaw and Germany, 12 days after, during the daytime, I could see how much they actually destroyed. And it felt so random, because they were destroying, or they did destroy, things like malls. Why would you attack a mall? Doesn't even seem logic to me, but I think searching logic in this war is also a hell of a task. But anyways, I'm kind of losing my thoughts.
In the night, and passing many block posts and many soldiers, and then again, even if we had this small paper situation, they also took photos of our plates and passports with their smartphone. So I guess you will find old and new technique to organize people that pass the borders. And I think this might be reasonable in the end, even if it was somehow surreal with this paper, but I'm repeating that for a third time now. And what else can I say? So yeah, then I was able to see Kiev. Beautiful city, wonderful people, a lot of mixed architecture from the last 300 years or so. So a lot of influences from European kind of Gründerzeit buildings, look like Prague to me, or Vienna or other cities. And then you see this megalomanic Soviet time alleys and streets that are just huge. And I think this grandiosity that they try to put into visuals and into architecture, you could see it and feel it, but to have this foul aftertaste of knowing that this is all due to occupation and to ideology, it was a bit of a shame to see parallels between Germany and other cities in Europe. And Kiev is just one of them. But it still stood out to me because it is just so vast and so natural. There are so many green areas, there's so much to the riverside to be seen and enjoyed. And
so you reported the story through the images. And
yes. I took a lot of images and videos, and I actually used Instagram for a matter of fact a lot, because I thought that this is the fastest way to connect with people. And even if I'm very much against these things, because I think they are very asocial, when it comes to connecting information firsthand, I think they're very useful. So I did take photos, videos, and I wrote a lot of first person perspective poetry and also realistic registration of what's going on. I try to make people understand in Germany that our media is just giving a slice of what's going on because they choose to. And this is very manipulative for our minds, because all of a sudden war to us looks like some smoky buildings and some dry, cold and statistic numbers of people being inflicted. But if you're there and if you see what's actually going on, and if you see the destruction firsthand and not 10 seconds of some smoke cloud, it is very, very different. And I think I remember a phrase. Sorry, as I'm remembering all of that happened, it kind of twists my tongue, and it also makes me very sad, to be honest. I remember having read something about the war in Vietnam, that it was lost in the media because apparently they took camera teams to the jungle and the cities and the places with the American soldiers, but this is how the publicity, how the public saw what's going on, and this is why there was an uprising. It's a theory, and I like that theory a lot because it shows that if you actually show the people what's going on, they will stop supporting whatever kind of ideology, and they will just say, please stop this war on any side. And this is why I feel that as the subject of this war of interests on European soil, or in Syria or in African countries and so on, it is so complex. I feel like media as a total, the structure doesn't really want to inform people fully. It is so hard, even if you're an intellectual or whatever, it is so hard to get the full gist of what's going on. And even if you have a lot of info, you will never understand all the influences and all the problems. So as much as I don't like transhumanism and the idea that we can only exist with devices, I have to say that using DeepL Translate enabling me to, and I don't want to make publicity now, but really this service for me was great, and I am a translator and I'm an adversary to these things by choice, but it helped me so much. I was able to read Ukrainian letters, but I wasn't able to speak that much. I only knew how to say goodbye, thank you, hello, and things like this, the basics of the basics. But I had full conversations via the devices with people, and we were able, even philosophical and historical discussions, political discussions, and just exchanging human thoughts. So by having the device, I was also kind of able to feel contact with my people at home. And all of a sudden, as soon as the message spread that I was there live, it really, I saw how many people followed me through my stories and my everyday posts. And there was one childhood friend who even said how much these poems I'm writing, how much it touched him seeing them. And even now, beyond what I exchanged with people I know or not know that much before going there, even now it is giving them some sort of relief to not see these standard kind of cat picture, whatever content things, but that somebody's trying to, not for personal gain, but trying to show realities other than regular consumerism, whatever representation. And to me, taking pictures and having this dilemma of being a tourist, being a person that wants to help, being a foreigner, having my background, and then being there in a war place, also not knowing really much of where this is going. And after the attacks happened at the third day of our stay, I was frightened to death, and I know fear of death, but this fear was different, because let's just say you wake up and you feel the explosion, major scale, that goes all over the city, just because the detonation is so powerful. But then you look out of your 8th floor building, whatever, and you see kilometers far away from you, there's this big ass smoke cloud, and you feel like, this was intense. So if I can feel this detonation through the whole city and it's kilometers away, how does it feel if that happens close to you? Insane, really insane. And I find it so, these drones, these tinker toys of war crime, I despise them. I really do. I mean,
how would you call that art that comes with the war? Because I consider sometimes the weakness of there is a strength in expressing yourself with the heart, but because in a way art can express your idealism more than violence, but in this way it could also transfer messages. So how would you call this kind of war art? I mean, if you
speaking with me, I'm a person that is a radical thinker, and you can allow yourself any thought with me in my presence. Be it radical in a political sense, be it radical in a humanistic, non-humanistic sense, whatever. So if you want to speak about art with me, connected to war, I think the big scheme of what's happening in the universe, I wouldn't be here without war. My grandfather wouldn't have fled his home country, Silesia. My grandmother wouldn't have had her experiences. My father from Syria wouldn't have fled his country and asked for asylum after studying abroad in the GDR Germany. Nothing of this would have happened. So there are people on this planet who call war the big changer. I understand that. And I still feel that there is an aesthetics to war, around war, that just helps feed this machinery. And I think war cannot exist without this so-called beauty and aesthetics to it, because apparently these things are very impressive to the human being. The sound of war, the intensity of an explosion, the colors, even the color of blood, it's just so not seen these days that I think some people get some arousal of it, some emotional uprising. It is other than neutral, and I feel like that these times where we are just so not in contact with each other because we find shortcuts and we use, I have a hard time expressing this in English, I must say. But I feel like other than getting into touch with people directly, we use intermittence. And I feel like war is just another example of trying to get in touch with people, but it also feels like every act of aggression is just a last resort. I wouldn't even say it's an act of power if you send a weapon to deliver a message. I feel like it's the utmost weakness. And for whatever kind of reasoning some world leaders think this is just, I don't see it. To me, this is the approval of giving up. And then, is this an artistic expression? Everything is an artistic expression as long as you're not straightly delivering facts. Let's say, whenever you have an inward feeling and you cannot express it with words alone that are trying to represent your feelings directly, then you could speak of art. And the same goes to non-verbal acts. And even in German I would have had a hard time expressing this now.
Can you now that we are going to present a bit your pictures, can you go across all of them and be very detailed about what you want, what do you think they wanted to express, and what you find like up close very interesting in this scenario, like what that is kind of, I will say not apocalyptical, but I mean it's a situation where there is
post-apocalyptical in the sense. The problem I had the whole time is, am I enjoying this or am I not enjoying this? And you will have to develop some sort of, the Ukrainians do that on a daily basis now, because let's say there comes an alarm, imminent attacks. You have to switch on your cautious mode, and if the alarm is off, you switch on your leisure mode or your everyday life mode or whatever. And I had to do the same. And every time I took a photo, I was like, am I trying to put what I see into an artistic framing or not? And what is art anyways? And I even spoke to some professional journalists, war front journalists and so on, and they made people that just survived the detonation or that didn't look beautiful, and I found that wrong actually. I find it wrong to aestheticize, I don't know how to say, to make it aesthetic when you see somebody that's just filled with blood. But this person, this professional photographer, they told me that for them, for the Ukrainians too, there's a possibility to be seen. But I still had a weird feeling, as if you would take a photo for the best shot of 2022, but you're just depicting the terror of somebody, the fear. And
okay, just go
and this is why my pictures, sometimes I wasn't able to take pictures, even if it was just a daily situation on the market or something, but I try to resist my own impulses, and this is why some pictures seem very trivial, but not to me. I hope I get this point straight. So, as I was driving, the first picture, I wasn't even able, as I was driving, I tried to take pictures while I was driving, don't tell anyone, but the first picture to me is also very nice, because it is some sort of out-of-the-hip shot as I'm driving, and I'm not really focusing well, but the sky is very clear and the top side of the trees, and these streets to me were in perfect condition, and I kind of had this silly idea of going to a country where everything is afflicted by war. Infrastructure, streets, railways, whatever. And I have to admit that visually I had a weird imagery of war coming ahead in my mind. I thought that everything looks destroyed, all the people are miserable, and I had no clue how war actually looks like in reality, or this war in these times, because it's very specific, I would say. So, to me, having this trip ahead of us, I had to try to show the first entrance, which was the street. Of course, we started in Berlin and saying goodbye to the loved ones and so on. But for me, this idea of these endless streets, that to me is very representative. but I also had the feeling of this looks like a road trip, and it is not a road trip. It is something very crucial, but also very risky. And this picture, it doesn't depict anything of this. But I like the transition between clear sky and trees, and then this blurry kind of lower part. But anyways, I also like to take pictures when I'm driving. I have to be honest about that. And the next picture, this is Padil district in Kiev. It is the older districts of Kiev, and it's artistic, it's fancy. There's a lot of street art, some nice coffee places, and so on. And Kiev is full of wonderful balconies, and they have these sort of winter garden balconies, and I just found them fascinating because this architectural space of, I would say, limited freedom, I would love to see this added to any kind of major building in Berlin, because it just gives you some freshness to you staying in four walls and being enclosed in concrete. And yeah, I was able to see a lot of these different kind of reminiscence of early day bourgeoisie, maybe, I don't know, but it is some small enclosed kind of freedom capsule, these balconies, to me at least. And to see the different architectural styles to it, that I also found very interesting. And yeah, but this is what I mean. I had this dilemma of enjoying the city as a total, all the while knowing that we're in a war time and war country and war place. So it was very difficult for me to take from. I was even ashamed of enjoying it sometimes, and yeah, mixed feelings. Arriving in this kind of situation was really comforting for me, and that was the first 2 days where Russia didn't attack.
You told me that you remain impressed by the fact that there were builder, constructor, worker. They were doing their job, even though they weren't completely sure when was the next attack. And you were impressed about the fact that they were still able to think about investing in construction rather than investing the money in defending the country, right? You were impressed.
Yeah. There were so many construction sites active going on, and if there wouldn't have been attacks all the while, I think you would have never guessed that this city is under attack. Everything looked normal, except for the times when there were alarms. All the rest, and I also talked to Ukrainians, why are you people funneling money into construction sites now? I mean, these construction sites, they don't seem important to me. Sorry to say, and I don't want to come across as harsh or indifferent or emotionless, but shouldn't this money be used differently? And obviously it is a difficult decision for any state, and if you have ongoing contracts and so on, but for them it is just a sign of we will continue our life, we will not be intimidated by this war, and we will not stop everything that gives us comfort in the city, and we will not stop any kind of project that gives us hope for a future that will just go on as it runs along parallelly to the war, just because you guys attack us, and just because you want to try to destroy and erase us from the map of history and the planet, actually. And everything that stood to that defense for them was a natural reaction. And I can understand, it has a strong symbolism, even if it's just that somebody's repairing a street, or I don't know. And also, since you are bound to earn money, and since work and getting money, even in Kiev, these days is so hard for everybody, I think there is a certain must to continuing your everyday work and tasks, but there's also a symbolism. So the most simple works during wartime might get a touch of survivalism or I think that the big empathy that rose amongst Ukrainians during the wartime made it possible to feel and connect and to be in touch with everybody more than ever before, so that a truck driver to me was somebody very heroic. If you stand at the border for 6 to 8 hours, kilometers, endless kilometers of trucks standing in line just to deliver some good, whatever it is, to me these are also the silent heroes. I don't like heroism that much, to be very honest, but if there is a hero, it's those people, you know. And how does a city work, and what is needed to maintain the feeling of safety, and what is needed to keep the machine going. From an outsider's point of view, continuing a building where some people might live happily right after the war, now seems silly or unreasonable. But as I was saying, for them it is a symbol of surviving this and standing strong together. And yeah, I think the fact that having a relaxed Sunday's walk with a coffee and some leisure time, and knowing that this is only possible because others defend your country at the front, where each centimeter looks like a win, or is a win, to any side. I think this ambiguity, this also touched me very much. And when I spoke of this on and off switch, that you, whenever there's an alarm, you are in cautious mode, and whenever the alarm is off, you just switch back to normal, if you can. I couldn't in these 12 days, it was very hard for me, but as they are forced to cope with this for 7-8 months now, I can understand that they got used to it after a time. Yeah, it just rents everything so absurd, but it also makes it humanly understandable. All these impulses of coping and maintaining your psychological healthiness and stability.
You caught some shot in the you took some picture of cars that were supposed to be by civilian,
Yeah.
but they were like completely militarized, right?
Well, maybe not as a weapon, so I didn't see any sort of weapon on them, but they were camouflaged to a full extent, and I feel this reflects what happened to Ukrainians, because not everybody was into war, not everybody was into becoming a soldier, and I think from 2014 on, up to February of this year, this switched to a full extent, and their army was apparently, as some said, in a bad state, if there is anything like a good state of an army. But all of a sudden everybody is very close to military or is a military person. And you saw so many people walking around in camouflage clothes. You didn't even know whether they were soldiers, volunteers, helpers, whatever. But it doesn't really matter, because either you are directly acting in defense of your country, or you are supporting those that are. And yeah, and so I saw transporters that have been camouflaged fully. I saw regular family cars, I would say, and but it's also difficult to take pictures of these, because there are strict rulings and laws that forbid that you take pictures and share them online or whatever of anything that is related to military. So I had the difficulty of trying to observe and share, and also trying to take pictures of the things I found interesting. But these things I really found interesting, and I allowed myself to take these photos. And
Specifically, you told me that there were like some people delivering, asking for money for drones. You mentioned.
I don't have pictures of this. So I was in a wonderful coffee place in Padil district, and they had two kind of tip glasses. One tip glass was for them, obviously, and one tip glass was for a drone. So I talked to the people there and asked, how is this going? So is this a weaponized drone, or is it a drone for I don't know how to say this in English, Aufklärung. Maybe you have to sub this afterwards. And as I was talking to them about this project and about collecting money for what will be used in the war and at the front, I came across the intel that many public buildings, many associations and also many private people are collecting money for any kind of equipment that can be sent to the front to support their people, their soldiers. And but it was also funny because on a relaxed Sunday, when there was a big market situation on one of the main places, one of the main squares, there were two people standing close to like a dart kind of board where they put Putin's face onto it with dart arrows with American flags. I found that so ironic. I asked them, isn't this the wrong flag at the on the arrow of this dart? But then they told us it doesn't matter that much. The only thing that matters is it's Putin's birthday, and if you hit the bullseye, which equals the center of his face, well then you win. And I was throwing one dart only because I don't feel this to be very adequate. Even if for some people this might mean some relief. And afterwards they told us that the money that we pay for tossing these darts, it goes into collecting for a drone. And I thought, well, this seems a bit weird now. I don't see any poster, I don't see any info, there's no flyer or whatever, there's nothing that shows me that this is a trustworthy kind of way of collecting for whatever might be supportive. And then I asked them, this goes to a drone? Yes it does. And is it a weaponized drone? They said no. And you're collecting for this drone only? Yeah. And blah blah blah. So we continued this talk. But then I thought, I really do hope that some people in Ukraine are not using this we collect for defending the country situation to then collect for their personal gain, which might happen anyways, but I thought this is this could lead to double standard situations where people become very hypocritic and misuse the empathy of everybody for personal matter. But whatever, support Ukrainian people even if they are not following a good cause, as long as you support them, because the whole country is under attack, and no matter where you're from, as long as you live there, you might need some support.
Okay.
But yeah.
And so, from this point of view, you were mentioning also that in a way you had an experience with also a domestic situation with an Ukrainian family. I don't want to show up the picture about that, but it would be nice if you explain the behaviors of this family, or in general the feeling that you perceive when you were part of this sort of when you were in their domestic situation. How did they react in a private mode, like completely isolated from the rest of the political situation? I mean, how they were.
It's interesting because the two elderly people I stayed with, they are from Kharkiv, and this city is under constant attack. So there was one situation where we talked about something minuscule, let's say what is going to be lunch for the day, and she reacted in a very nervous way, and I didn't really understand where her nervosity comes from. And using the translator device, he told me, well, it is normal, you know, because she's a bit nervous these days, she has been under constant bombardment, and she reacts a bit strange to many situations. And I thought, wow, I would have never explained nervosity connected to being bombed in such a neutral kind of regular, normal way. And they were so leaned back somehow. And I feel like if you survive any situation close to this for more than one day, you will find yourself confronted with the choice of either it will freak the hell out of you every day and you will lose your mind and you will become a nervous bundle, or you take yourself and your nerves together and focus on the lottery that is life from that moment on, and you will just be somewhat respectful to what comes from the enemy or the adversary, and for all the rest you will stay relaxed. You will be knowing that if you survive, and you will know that if you die, well then that's it. And whenever there was, many people in Ukraine have this bomb alarm and rocket alarm application on their phones, and it always starts with the alarm and then it comes waha, which means like careful or imminent risk, attention and so on. And I always freaked out and I showed it to them. Shouldn't we hide? Shouldn't we go somewhere safe? And he was usually saying either, never mind, it's not Kiev, go back to sleep, in this kind of tone. Or he said, it's okay, it's alright, we survived Kharkiv, you can survive this too, don't stress, And it was crazy because I wouldn't have thought that this gives me comfort, but it did. If those two elderly people wouldn't have been this recklessly safe harbor for me, I think I would really have lost my mind. And as they were constantly chill, let's say, I think that gave me a lot of stability. But they also planned to return to Kharkiv, even if it was under attack. And I thought, this sounds as if they wouldn't care for their lives anymore, as long as they can return to their homes. And I have to say I value my life a lot, but I would, if my life would be needed to change the fate of humanity for the good, I would give it. But if I would have to die for my apartment or for, I don't know, something I call home, I think I would never, rather leave. But they, having their home, knowing it's there and wanting to go back, it just means so much for them. Sometimes I thought their relaxedness is connected to some sort of recklessness, that they are only relaxed because they stop caring, and sometimes I thought they are relaxed because they do care, but they know that there isn't much to be changed when they are nervous. And
can you explain to me this symbol that you find constantly in Kiev, but also, in general in Ukraine, that reminds you, as you said to me, to a translation of the Nazification in Germany? In general.
Yeah. So on the markets and in shops and so on, there's a lot of militia that is being sold right now, understandably. And what I found interesting, that as Putin's propaganda machine is claiming that there are a lot of Nazis in Ukraine right now, I kept an open eye for any kind of detail that might hint at this being somewhat remotely true, so that he could use these facts to open up his narrative. And what I did find, and from a German perspective to me that struck me as very interesting, is the black sun. And this symbol, obviously in black and white, in Germany it is forbidden to be openly displayed, if I'm well informed, because neo-Nazi groups are using this to visualize their standing on the idea of a master race and on the idea of the Aryans being the greatest human beings on soil and whatever, even if most of them don't know that they come from Iran or whatever. So I talked to the people at the market, asking them if they know that this symbol has been used by neo-Nazi groups in Europe as representatives of their ideological beliefs and of their insanity somehow. And they told me that they did not know, and for them these symbols are very, because I saw different symbols too that are somewhat close to what German Nazis are misusing. And they said, no, this is a Slavic symbol and it's very old. And we had no idea. And to us, this has nothing to do with Nazism and with neo-Nazi and National Socialists. And I told them, well, good to know, but I'm still informing you that this is a reality in Germany, even if most Germans don't know that about the Black Sun or the Black Sun's wheel. Because if anyone finds these symbols and takes it out of context, out of your context, they could use it for a propagandistic narrative against you. And we had a very interesting conversation over this very symbol. And I was strolling Kiev and I saw swastika graffitis and Black Suns graffitis, and I saw them crossed out and scratched off as well. And I thought, maybe regarding what Putin is trying to claim, as in any European and westernized society, there might be this problem of the fascist idea not being erased from the human mind everywhere, all over Europe, all over the West, all over the East, but there is more to it. And I found that connecting the very old Ukrainian history of things, about the roots of their society, the pre-Slavic and the Slavic times, they have some sort of bigger stance and surer information about how they feel these symbols can be used and where their origin is coming from and so on. And I think Germans have this sort of instant muscular reflex and ideological impulse that if you're not a Nazi, if you see anything that's close to Nazism, you will have to repulse it from you and you will have to fight against it. This is what sometimes leads to situations where you're not able to be open anymore to the ambiguity of these symbols, to the different meanings they could have, and to the fact that Nazis tried to construct history rather than to represent it as it might have been. The situation between the people, the translation device, between my knowledge of the background of this symbol and their knowledge, this was really a cultural moment for me. It was a close-up exchange of how different things can be seen, how differently, and how to carefully approach with information so that people won't get offended, but that you will be able to exchange your opinion, which is varied. Anyways, so...
Can you also show me up? Can you also show me up the other interesting? How do you call it? Recruits from Crimea, like that you told.
Yeah. So this is a bag full of wonderful lavender, and it smells absolutely great still. And so I was at a very popular descent, the Andrisky descent, I think it's called, in Kiev, and there were many small sellers of cultural goods from Ukraine and all over Ukraine. And I saw this guy having this huge stand, this pyramid pile of lavender sachets and sachets, and I thought, well, this is nice, I'm bringing this home. And I asked him, where in Ukraine do you have lavender? And he said, well, this is from Crimea region. And then an inner monologue started within me, because I thought, I like to support farmers. I like to have this as some sort of reminder of me being there, but it's also from Crimea. Crimea is annected, Crimea is occupied. Russians say it's their island, Ukrainians say it's their island. Everybody has to have an opinion about Crimea. But I thought, this is interesting, because this now is beyond my grasp. If I'm buying this, and obviously I did, am I supporting a person from Crimea? Am I supporting a Ukrainian, a Russian? Am I supporting Russia? What happens if I buy this? And I don't know. I will never know. It's the same when I go I did go to Russian supermarkets here, and I had the same thought. In the beginning of the crisis, I was just buying an apple and some small things close to my living situation, to my apartment, and I thought, if I'm buying here in a German in a store that is paying German tax money, maybe, I think they are, and will this somehow go to Russia? And if so, will this directly support war or not? And these thoughts are to me beyond my grasp, but I still have to think them through. It's the same if I buy, let's say, an avocado or whatever. I'm thinking of the footprint that this has. And now anything that is connected to Russia, and I have friends in Russia and I have friends in Ukraine too. It's not that I'm pro or against any of these people personally. I'm absolutely against war. And as I said in the beginning, without war I wouldn't be born. Historically proven. So, in a sense, philosophically, I could say, if I am against war, I am against my very existence. But that is so abstract and so beyond my reach that I'm thinking that I should maybe put an end to my unlimited thinking. So I decided to buy this. And I talked to my companion and I asked her, what do you think? And she actually had the same idea. She said, it's a farmer, it's nice that you support him. It might be that you support Russia, but we do not know. I was speaking about this dart situation, right? And in the end we got a small gift, and this now is used many times. This is a magnet that can be attached to anything metal, obviously. And so Ukraine was able to destroy a very, very big military ship of the Russians, and I even saw children charcoal drawings on the floor where they were depicting the conquest and the possibility to let this sink. And yeah, so they are very proud. The public is very proud of every kind of, as I said, any centimeter that is bringing them closer to victory. It makes them proud, you know. And the idea of pride in war, apparently it is very, very much needed to maintain the moral on the field, but also in the mind of the people. And I have to say that from toddler age to old age, there is this big narrative of we have to stand together to fight them. But what I feel will be very complicated over the course of decades is to really dissect what is Russian, what is Ukrainian, because both sides somehow claim that neither of them exists. There is Russia, which claims that Ukraine is not really existing, it's just a construct. There are Ukrainians who say the same. And obviously we have the problem of states and nations being abstract constructs. So, I don't know. And this is very widely discussed in the public and also amongst intellectuals and in essays and in talks and on a daily basis. And I don't know. It just boggles the mind. There is so much to think about it, but in the end all this thinking might not help. I don't know. I just hope that there is going to be a lot of empathy for what's going on, and all the talking I'm doing, it's just really senseless in the end. It doesn't help. Sometimes it just relieves the mind of stress, to be honest. But I feel like no matter if you're expressing something clever or something dumb, something very intellectual or something very bold, it doesn't matter that much because it's all talking.
There is also another perception that you had when you were there, and you told me this war, of course you're not judging in a political way because you're not a politician and you don't go there, like you don't even want to express an opinion from this point of view, but you had a perception when you were there, and that perception was real. So you told me that if this war is happening between Russia and Ukraine, but you don't feel only like it's their war, but there is something more.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't claim that I understand a lot of geopolitics, but seeing that there is coincidentally a big gas field right under the now enacted areas, that there is this rich soil of Ukraine being able to be Europe's corn chamber, the fact that you have the Black Sea around, the fact that it is just such a big topic. I feel like this is a war of interest, and that the interest is geopolitical, and that the interest is not Ukrainian and not Russian per se. I feel like there is this big conflict, still ongoing conflict. We barely exited, as human beings, I mean, we barely exited hundreds of years of colonialization. We barely exited the last century of 2 world wars in a short row, consecutive world wars. And I think that these traumas and the ongoing quarrels, they are still present. And I would have never called this war the Cold War that followed after the Second World War, because to me it is just ongoing. And if it is Syria, if it is Lebanon, if it is Qatar, if it is Ukraine, if it is any of these active, I think we have over 20 active war areas on the planet right now. And obviously the attention of the West, as if there would be something like the West, the attention is on Ukraine now, also because apparently being white and being European helps with attention getting. But anyways, I feel like this is a war of interest, and I feel like it is the West against the East. It is again the totalitarian, the oligarchian, the communist, if they call themselves so, kind of approach to power versus the so-called liberal and so-called democratic and so-called Western approach to power. And again, a country has to bleed, a country has to suffer, and a country has to be victimized for interests that maybe are close to them but are not their own. What is the Ukrainian interest is to be disoccupied, is to be disassimilated, and to be de-Russified. And this is apparently, for many people in Ukraine, a real Ukrainian interest. To get rid of the Tsar and Soviet and post-Soviet and Putin era occupation. And all the rest, it just feels like there's this one league of power, which is maybe China, Russia, Iran, Brazil, whatever, and then there's the league of the others. And I'm just tired of this. I have to say, I am super tired, I'm super exhausted, each day is a lottery for me of being either super depressed and resignated or super motivated and flaming, firing and fueling and fuming with energy of trying to solve this riddle of how to end these idiocies of trying to maintain power while we are destroying our planet. And why am I tired of this? Leaving school with humanist ideas, leaving school with ideologies of UNESCO and United Nations and democracy and standing up for peace and fighting for uniting the planet and so on. These values are still real within me, you know, but all I'm seeing is that common people try to either live their life peacefully or get a fair share of what's going on or fight for peace, and then you have power structures, you have structures that seem to be as old as time and civilization, which try to maintain their hierarchy on what's going on the planet, and it just blocks us from letting this all rest. Why did I go there? First, I have to say that growing up as half German, half Syrian, these identity crises that followed my childhood, being attacked, being insulted upon, being hit. One of my first memories in school, very traumatic, people I can't even talk about it. Just imagine that you get into school and there are some small kids and they will just start to attack you, hit you, kick you, and you don't even remember what exactly was going on. These are amongst my first memories of school, and I don't want to sound like a victim or something, and for years this didn't come into my mind, but I have to say that being half German, being half Syrian, having lived through a lot of racism from early days on till now, as a 31-year-old person, I was always in between the chairs. I can't speak Arabic yet, which means that for the Arabic I am not an Arab per se, and being German, but nobody sees me as a German before I open my mouth and speak the German I can speak. I'm always in between. I'm always in between positions, in between cultures, in between chairs, let's say, which enabled me to see perspectives on both sides. And as I said, I have friends in Russia, not very political ones. I have friends in Ukraine now, and I am half Syrian, and I grew up in Germany, this so very important, very powerful country of Germany. I think this is why it is important to me to go there. I couldn't gather the courage to go to Syria yet, but I did manage to help Ukrainians somehow. And this will enable me to go to Syria without having the risk of absolutely breaking down and having nervous crisis and not being of help but being a burden to them. Because speaking to Syrians here who lived through these war times for more than months but more than years and decades, I think I now have a small glimpse of how it is to survive war and to see how very far away from understanding people are that even remotely try to understand the situation by researching, by media, by whatever. I grew up with the stories of my grandparents and their post-war and Soviet occupation time experiences, and I thought I know. I absolutely didn't. I read the news, I read newspapers from different countries, I saw a lot of things over the internet and the so-called social media, and I still had no clue. And I thought I'm prepared. I really thought I am prepared. And I asked thousands of times, is Kiev safe? Are we going to a place that is not under attack right now? And obviously the person I went to Kiev with, she said, well, you know, it is safe for now, but you will never know. And in some senses, I'm thankful for my naive mind not allowing me to start doubting our quest, because otherwise I wouldn't have gone there. But after the third day, when they start attacking us, I really thought I had no clue of what's ahead, of what's going on. And as I was saying goodbye to my grandfather, and it could have possibly been a goodbye forever, for good, he said, remember, you're going to Feindesland, which equals country of enemies. And I thought, this is an interesting way of phrasing it, grandfather. Why are they enemies to us now, the Russians? I mean, they do attack Europe as a construct, they do attack the West as a construct, but they are not attacking us. But this to me made me think of empathy again, because if anybody attacks a country, they are attacking humanity as a whole. So my grandfather, with his very intuitive phrasing, he helped me understand again. And grandfather is one of these swords that says one or two things, and it's just dense with information and experience, where I, with my young brain trying to grasp life, I need millions of words for not even making sense for a minute straight. And this is why I'm thankful for my biography, and I'm also not thankful for the burden it placed upon me. But it also enables me, I have to say again, to see all perspectives and not only one or the other. So being in between might seem as a burden, but now I saw that it is my power and my chance, and I tried to live with it to a greater good.
Most of the comment that people made will be irrelevant. The first things we have to remember in this apocalyptic scenario and destructive war is the way that heart reacts through that. Everything that images represent the weakness of our hypocrisy, the weakness of us as human beings, the propaganda we also create, and not only from the other part, but the way we propagate information, the way we transfer them. The only pure form and sense of strength in it is the execution of the art itself. Everything that is not included in a pure form of representation, but is taken aside socially, politically, or historically, is attempting to our knowledges and fomenting and igniting more sense of void. And this is the weakness about war.